Hi, in this tutorial I will be showing you how to make the inverse zipper chain rainbow loom bracelet. One of my friend's brothers was wearing a bracelet that looked like this, and I asked him what it was, and he said it was a zippy chain, but this is not the zippy chain bracelet. But I had never seen a tutorial for this bracelet before, so I figured out how to make it, and since I'd never seen a tutorial, I will be showing you how to make it in this tutorial. This is another example. This one is one that my mom made. And so to make this bracelet, you will need your rainbow loom and your hook. You will need 24 total bands for the stripes in the center, and I will be using 6 colors. You will need 13 bands for the chain that goes down the center of the bracelet, and you will need 30 bands for the border and an additional 4 to 12 bands depending on your wrist size for the extension. And you will need a C-clip. So first, you place the chain down the center. And so you will make a line of bands going up the center column of the loom, and the arrow is facing away from you, pointing away from you, and the loom is an offset configuration. At the end of the loom, take your last band of that color and place it on the last center pin. Just place it on the pin, and you will be placing bands on top of that later. Now it is time to add the stripe bands that are essentially the zipper part of the bracelet. And so you take your first zipper band diagonally from the second pin in the center up to the second pin on the left, and then take your next band from the second pin in the center to the second pin in the right, on the right. Take your next set of stripe bands and stretch them diagonally from the third pin in the center to the third pin on the left and the right, making sure that you place the band to the left first. Also make sure that you do not place stripe bands on the first pins. You will continue this way to the end of the loom. Next, you will take your border color and back at the beginning of the loom, at the bottom of the loom, you will stretch your first border band from the first pin in the center to the first pin on the left. And then stretch your next border band from the first pin in the center to the first pin on the right. And then, using your border colored bands, place your bands in a line up the left side of the loom. And once you reach the end of the loom, you will place a border colored band on the last pin on the left. Then go back to the bottom of the loom and place your border bands down the right side, up the right side of the loom. Once again, when you get to the end of the loom, place a band on the last pin, this time on the right. Now it's time to begin looping. First, you should make a cap band on your hook. So you take the band, put it on the hook, twist it, and put the other side onto the hook. Then you turn your loom around so that the arrow is pointing towards you now. And with your hook, pick up the band, the loose band on the left. Now what you will do is you will put the cap band onto this loose band. And then loop the band onto the bottom pin on the left, so back upon itself. Then you will put your hook back into the cap band, making sure that you put your hook into both sides of the cap band. And you will stretch the cap band, and using your hook, pick up the loose band on the right side. And pull the loose band through the cap band so that the cap band is on the band. And loop the band to the pin on the right, back upon itself. Next, put your hook into the pin on the left and push back, using the back of your hook, the top two layers, which would be the first band, like that, and pick up the next band underneath that band and loop it forward. Then you will put your hook back into the band you just looped. Pick up the border colored band and loop it forward. And you will loop the rest of the bands on this left side of the loom forward until you get to the end of the loom. Also make sure that you're only looping the border bands and that you're not accidentally picking up any of the stripe bands. At the end of the loom, loop the last band into the center. Then go back to the bottom of the loom. Next, put your hook into the pin on the right. Push back the top two layers and pick up the border band underneath that and loop that band forward. Then loop the rest of the border bands forward. At the end of the loom, loop the last band into the center. And go back to the bottom of the loom. Put your hook into the band on the left. Push back the band with the back of your hook. And pick up the stripe band underneath that. Loop the stripe band into the center back upon itself. Then put your hook into the band on the right. Push back that band with your hook. Pick up the bottom stripe band and loop the stripe band into the center. Next, put your hook into the next band on the left. Just pick up the stripe band and loop it into the center. And then put your hook into the band on the right side, pick up the stripe band or zipper band and loop it into the center. And continue looping bands into the center until you reach the end of the loom. Then go back to the bottom of the loom, and now put your hook back into the cap band. Pick up the chain band and pull it through the cap band and put it onto the first center pin. Then put your hook into that pin using the back of your hook. Push back everything on that pin except for the very bottom band. Pick up the bottom band and loop it forward. Then put your hook into that pin, push back everything except for the very bottom band, pick up the bottom band and loop it forward. Then put your hook into the next pin. Push back all of the bands except for the bottom band and loop the bottom band forward. Continue in this way where you push back all the bands and then loop the bottom band forward all the way until the end of the loom. Now that everything on the loom is looped, put your hook into the last center pin and out to the side. Pick up your last border band and pull it through everything on that pin. Then put the other side of that band back onto your hook, or onto your hook. I'm going to show that again. So you put your hook through all of the bands on the last center pin and out to the side. Pick up your last border band, pull it through all of the bands on that pin, and put the side that you're holding onto your hook. Then move this band up to the thick part of the hook and remove the bracelet from the loom. Once you've removed your bracelet from the loom, turn your loom around so that the arrow is pointing away from you. And now it is time to add the extension. So you take your first extension band, and it doesn't matter which of the 3 columns you use. But stretch that band from the first pin to the second pin of whichever column you are using. Then stretch your second extension band from the second pin to the third pin, and so on. And continue until you've placed all of your extension bands. Then take your bracelet take the band that is on your hook and stretch that band, both sides of it, around the last pin used in your extension. Then turn your loom back around, pull back your bracelet, and put your hook into the band that is at the end of the bracelet. Then pick up the extension band and loop it forward. Loop the rest of the extension bands forward. Then take your C-clip, after you've removed the extension from the loom, and place the last extension band into the C-clip. Then clip the cap band at the end of the bracelet. And there you have your finished inverse zippy chain bracelet.